And again, let's mute ourselves. And there's a microphone button in your, if you can see your video, your faces, there's a microphone there. Thank you. Not sure, Mina, you have no audio, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything from you as of the moment.
There is a need often to speak.
Sorry, we can't hear.
There is a need sometimes that we experience of desiring to complete the void, to annihilate the silence. There's a need sometimes to avoid our own presence. That can create a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, emotions, a lot of wonders and confusion. And we're not used to that, because the silence brings up everything that's inside of us. And we have trained the mind to direct our focus towards something else instead of looking of what's arising inside of us. So when we are in space with people, sometimes there is nothing to say. We create meaning about this confusion. So we project our thoughts. We project the way we feel. And we think about what the other person might be thinking of. And we might start to feel uncomfortable, not knowing what to do, because we have trained ourselves to constantly be doing something. That is the avoidance of the present moment. And because we think that we're lacking something, that this moment isn't enough, there must be something wrong. There must be something that I gotta do now. Maybe there is something that I need to say to escape the way I feel in this silence. It's a little exercise of awareness for you. Did you recognize the type of thoughts that arise during those 10 minutes? Did you notice the wonders, the questions that you might ask inside of you about what was happening? Did you notice how you felt? What was alive inside of you during those 10 minutes? When there is silence outside, the polarity of life brings a lot of noise within. And that noise is very important to observe. Because if we don't observe it and diligently train ourselves to be mindful about those processes. We let them run our life and design behaviors and attitudes that we have towards it. And we play our characters, not being aware of it, unconsciously following the flow of the conditioning that arises. The reason we don't feel comfortable in presence is because we spend most of our life not being. We spent most of our life projecting an idea and an expectation about who we wanted to become. And it's this constant reflection of the experiences of my past that I put forward on the path, on my journey, that stops me to come back here and to realize that this is all me being tangled in illusions. We hold back. There are things inside of us that we are holding on to that stops us to appreciate what we are in this very moment. And one of the fundamental principles of the mind is that it always seeks for more. We always want what we don't have because we think that we have something at the first place, or we think that we don't. That first distortion of reality creates so much separation. Because we think we possess, and we think we don't. One of the essential laws of the creation of life that is very hard to remember when we face difficulties inside of us is that from an energetic point of view, it's the same. The same elements within you are within me. They're within the flowers that you pass by every day when you walk out of your garden. They're the same elements that compose the sun, which brings light into your life. They're the same elements that compose this camera in which I'm looking at you through. Because at one very moment, the essence which composes the channel through consciousness is flowing. Was only one thing. And we like to know that. We like to think of that. So intellectually, we believe in it because it makes us feel good that we're all the same. but it's not entirely true. Because we're not just all the same. We're different in many levels. And the first level, in which create this difference, is your perception, from which consciousness experiences life itself. And it's through the mind and the body that it experiences itself. Every bit of information that you're capturing with your senses, they're filtered by your own perception, which is an accumulation and the sum of every little experiences that you have come through in your life. That one specific part of the mind has created meaning upon. And at this moment, when the mind creates meaning around an experience, it gathers data, it collects information and identifies the idea of who this perception came from that has built an idea of who I think I am. This is the first step of separation from not being able to remember that the consciousness that I observe all around me, the consciousness that I observe when I look at you in the eye, is the same. The expression of it through the different aspects of your personality are different. The polarity of thinking, when we elevate through different complexity of thinking, we realize that, okay, I'm not just a person, but actually I'm awareness. I'm pure consciousness. And because we gather new knowledge and we start to create meaning about what they are as knowledge in accordance to our own experiences of life, we keep on building meanings and identifications. So we identify ourselves with the new words that we learn because they start to make sense. To whom? They make sense to me. Who is me? Who is that part of me that believes that it makes sense to? Me is an identification. And it's a natural process of the mind trying to comprehend what's going on. If the mind hasn't been trained to a process to step away from the natural identification that it creates unconsciously, our level of perception is very limited. And I'd just like to mention that every steps of the evolution of the understanding of the truer nature of reality implies those identifications. It is inevitable. In fact, it's not about avoiding that. It's just about recognizing it when it appears. Consciousness expresses through you through different planes. And the ones that we're going to talk about are the mind, with your thinking, and the body plane, with the way you feel, with the emotion that manifests within you. Both of them, they work together as a team to make sense upon the aliveness that's within you. Because we don't like confusion, we naturally want and we have trained ourselves to make sense upon everything. And if my thinking isn't developed enough to understand about what's going on, I might reject it. And I don't want to look at it. I want to avoid it because it's not me. I know who I am and I don't want to be this. This is not me. There is a problem. And it's more likely that I believe that the problem is outside. Or eventually I get to a point where I might believe that the problem is me. None of them is better than the other. And the truth is that there is no problem. If there would be a problem, it's a non-education upon the processes of the mind and the body, the processes of the psychology behind our limitations. And it's because I keep on resisting to feel myself in this moment. It's because I'm resisting to what life is naturally bringing in front of me that I keep on creating this wall in between what's happening and the idea of who I think I am. Because I keep on creating separation. I keep on believing that what I see outside of me is different than what I experience within. That perception itself stops us a lot to evolve into a new way of living life. Because whether I'm creating a blame within the external or I'm blaming myself for what's happening in my life, I am creating separation. I might think I'm better than what's outside, or I might think I'm worse. I might compare myself to what I see and the people around me that inspire me. Or I might think that what I know is more valuable than what I do. Not realizing that it's just a projection of our own perception. Because everything that we experience can be nothing else than who we are in this very moment. When I'm in a relationship, I'm not experiencing my partner and the way I see him or her evolving in their own path. I'm experiencing myself through the energy and the energetic field that they provide when I'm around them, that matches and activates different parts of my own energetic field. So I can feel myself from various avenues that I wouldn't be able to explore by myself. When I'm working on beautiful projects and I'm facing obstacles every time I try to take actions, the obstacles are not outside. The obstacles that I face are just within me. The blockages inside that stop me to accept that everything is fine and that the energies that I sense inside of me, they're opportunities for me to utilize them so I can create. You look at yourself and the body that you have as a vehicle that constantly creates different chemicals. It's a whole universe in which stars get birth and die. Because we're too attached to look at the stars that are birthing inside of us and dying. We forget about the space that's in between. We forget that within the space that everything is happening, but we keep on focusing about those small events. We look at the details, forgetting about the big container. And the details are the meanings that we keep on creating. And we get stuck with them. Because we don't know where else to look at. And when we look somewhere else, we might see that there is nothing. And nothingness is a place where the mind doesn't want to dwell. In fact, it is not invited. So if the mind is not invited in the space which is the present moment, what starts to appear inside of me then are all the meanings, all the little creations that happen unconsciously that try to warn me about something very unfamiliar that's happening right now. Because now there's a space that I've never been into. And what the hell is that? Who is me in this space? Who is me, my name, and my age? Who spent so many years doing this and that? Who's built a reputation around my friends and my family? Who's that in nothingness? No one. And that is scary. Because eventually we realize from a deeper perspective that everything that I've been building then was in a sense meaningless. Because what I think I know becomes irrelevant. Who I think I am doesn't have room here. And who I think I'm becoming is also an illusion. This is a way to look at life from a very abstract perspective. But it's important to remember that we also human beings. And we play different characters in our life. We have different ways of expression. And they're all very valid. They're actually all very beautiful. It is from the abstraction of looking at life that we can realize that everything then becomes a game. And if I can embody the fact that there is nothing that I have to worry about, that I'm safe now, regardless if I don't believe it is. In this moment, I am. And what other moment exists if not this one? The moment that happened yesterday is gone already. But I have my past and my traumas. That also is gone. That memory of yours is just a thought that is bringing this meaning to life in this moment. But if you don't think of it, it does not exist. And the way you think of it now and the way you will think of it tomorrow will change. So if the same events and things that happen to you in your life can change from a day to another one, from a perspective to another, what is real? What is real for you is the meaning that you have upon those stories. That is your reality. And if the reality of those meanings isn't beneficial for you, you can rewrite those stories because they are not true. They don't have to be. If your perception for tomorrow will look back and bring back those memories, which are just images being played by your pineal gland and emotions being secreted by your endocrine glands, if the chemicals being displayed within you can change, and if the picture you have about your past can be filled with gratefulness instead of having sorrow and remorse and pain, that is called a choice. Emotions as a manifestation are a guide. They're here to tell you that there is something now that you can release if you want to look at it, if you want to feel it, and to let go of the previous meaning that you have conceived about it. Which means investigation on the body plane and investigation on the mind plane, which means deeply feeling what's happening in these moments and understanding about the thinking that is stopping you to think differently. My perception will change when I know how to convey this new information by understanding truer about the nature of those phenomena. If I keep on avoiding how I feel in daily situations with my partner, with work, the act of avoiding how I feel within me is inevitably being displayed in my attitudes and behaviors about things that I will avoid to do and to look at, conversations that I will avoid to have, projects that I will avoid to finish and complete. Because in order for me to have those conversations and to complete those projects, I must transcend what's within me first. When an emotion arises, we have trained ourselves to pile them up throughout the day, to accumulate them, to put them on a side within us, to avoid thinking and going back into that. And to protect ourselves, we have unconsciously built a certain amount of behaviors in our speech, in the way we think, and in the way we act. Those behaviors are there to protect you from feeling those emotions that you don't want to feel. that is being led by the first polarity of our existence, which is feeling, understanding, and behaving from love, or feeling and behaving from fear. This is the first place in which we separate ourselves from our existence. And at a very young age, we believe that we had to live life through fear because that's what we've seen being displayed in the behaviors of our parents. That's what we've seen in the behaviors of our teachers, in the education, in the words that are being displayed in the medias. At a very young age, there is no conscious mind. When I'm a kid to the age of 7, or even until the age of 14, the conscious mind hasn't been built yet, meaning that my critical faculty to think by myself is very limited. And if my unconscious mind is open and that's the only thing that I can experience without being aware of it, it means that this is a perfect plate in which I can be conditioned according to the environment that's around me. So if the environment is bathed in fears and behaviors that displays the opposite of what love truly means, no wonder why we carry so much weight. No wonder why we struggle to appreciate what we have, because it's never enough. And it's never enough now, and now, and again now. From that perspective, I keep on creating my future, which I design now, because now I remember about what happened to me, and I'm projecting that, so my experience becomes a loop, a momentum which I create in a place of absence of awareness and presence. When I look at emotions when they arise inside of me, the way I feel, understanding intellectually that everything I experience is a reflection of me is a good point. It's a very good place to plunge deeper into the practice. That practice will allow you to see deeply all the branches, all the boulevards of what that fear has created inside of your life. Because if when you were 7, when you've experienced events that really shaped your life, events that you might not even remember of, those deep conditioning and those deep roots, they emerge in various phases in your life. When you can recognize those symptoms that present to you in your life by nurturing this mindfulness, by connecting with your body, by observing the manifestation of consciousness through the way you feel, through your daily thinking, and through the way that you live your life in the action that you guide yourself with. That is the only thing that you have to do. Because life is going to bring exactly everything that you need so you can clean yourself. Eventually, you will get used to the taste and the different flavors of what those emotions are. You're going to become very aware about the place and the location in which they take place inside of you. When you recognize that, when you feel it, make a pause. Whatever you're doing in this moment, this becomes a priority. And it doesn't take much. Just close your eyes and you deeply feel about where this is from in your body. You don't have to think straight away about what does that mean, because the meanings will stop you to actually be with the energy at the first place. When you bathe and dwell within those energies that arise, you will allow yourself to regulate and calm down your nervous system. And it's because at the first place you don't know how to do so that you jump into different behaviors to distract yourself from how you feel. So when I nurture awareness and I bring that in the moment, when I recognize that there is a psychological blockage right here, I will allow this emotion, those enzymes in the scientific world and the neuroscience world, it's what is being created within you. You have different chemicals. When you're allowed to focus on that, instead of stagnating into the area in which they have been released, your system will clean that up for you. That's the first step. The second step is to remember that one of the first things that stopped me for a long time to feel those is because of my thinking that wasn't aligned with that. So what is my thinking? What is actually happening within the mind? What is my belief around this situation? What thought comes up to me when I experience this, when I experience myself in this situation? So because I've regulated myself and the nervous system, the way I'm going to look at the way I think with discernment will allow me to observe again that the thought isn't who I am. So I can train myself to bring acceptance to the way I think in the same way that I bring acceptance to the way I feel. And acceptance is the antidote of fear. When I can accept that this is the way I am right now, and this is the experience of myself in this very moment, acceptance will transcend the expectations about who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to feel. Acceptance will transcend the programs that told you that are very deep, even though you might be knowing about that intellectually, but emotions and feeling them is not a weakness. I would even say that it's an act of bravery. And it requires a certain courage to face that, to accept it, and to express it to the world. It is important to mention that expressing the way I feel and expressing the way I think also can lead to identification about that. Because out of a sudden, I think I know. I think I know. And then I create more separation because I know and others don't. So I keep on judging and I keep on feeding some stories about the reason of that judgment. The mind is like a maze. And it's amazing to see how we tangle ourselves and we step onto our own feet. But then when we realize again that we were into a story in disillusion, it's about celebrating the fact that we are remembering now instead of blaming ourselves for having forgotten it. It's about recognizing that we are sleeping all the time. We are sleeping all the time. If you think you're not, that thought alone means that you are. If you think you are, that thought alone means that you are. Unless you have recognized that thought and know it inside of you and being like, there's a thought that agreed here. Or there's a thought that disagreed. But I'm not that thought. Because that thought is coming from a program of me that might struggle to expand. Because I'm not able to receive this information without thinking about something. The observation of the mental and the emotional processes is one of the key for the foundation of presence, which is the outcome of what happens when you sit down, which is the outcome of what happens when you look at yourself deeply in the mirror, just like that. The ability to transcend whatever might comes up inside of you as you gaze at yourself, as you gaze at people in conversation, as you allow this intimacy to be so profound that you sense inside of you a pull to figure out what's happening, to understand. There is nothing to understand. There is nothing to understand. And that's a trick. Because intellectually, the more I gather words in my vocabulary, in my language, I think I understand. But I must remember that the words we use and the speech we convey to people is often to actually lead them to a place of silence within them. In fact, that is the best teaching. Silence. But consciousness wants to experience more. I'm experiencing myself right now through you, through this masterclass, through this opportunity that I have to speak to you. That is what consciousness wants. New experiences. That's great. Follow that. Acknowledge it, that this is a call inside of you. And notice the expectations that you have about that too. There are things that you want to do. There are experiences that you want to taste. Taste them. Do things. Express yourself. You might want to say, who is myself then, after all this speech? It's the integration of everything I just said. It's a deep and fundamental recognition that you are that awareness that observes everything of your behaviors, your thinking processes, and your emotional. And you have this persona within you that wants to express, that wants to enjoy life and create new things. And it's the integration of that, as well as that will allow you to make peace inside of you and to know that everything is fine just right now. Yet, I've got so many things that I fucking want to do. I want to go there. I want to be doing that. And I know it and I love it because I have accepted that this is also a part of my expression. So play those characters, play them well, dive into them, understand the stories of those characters so you can tweak and change whatever is stopping you to believe that you can expand those characters in those different branches of expression of you. Master your level of observation and acceptance. And then nothing inside of you will ever stop you. What will stop you is eventually forgetting about that truth. Because it's one thing to talk about it when everything is amazing, but it's when shit hits the fan that it's complicated to remember about that. Can I apply all the practice about regulating my nervous system in this moment? Can I step away from the stories of this character so I can investigate with clarity about what's going on? So I can adjust and calibrate the little obstacles that this character is facing. Can I allow myself to deeply love myself when I think that I'm alone in this world, when I'm diving into loneliness inside of me, when I think that life is just playing a full trick against me, when I feel so bad that everything that I try to remember of feels tasteless, and I think that I'm the worst person in the world and I don't deserve love. Even when my character thinks about that, can I still step away from it? Can I acknowledge the pattern that is running around? And can I be fine with it? Flowing with the wave, letting myself naturally be guided towards the center of the hurricane, in which stillness is finally accessible among all this chaos. And the weather will change. The clouds will dissipate. And the hurricane will pass. And then it's just me again on my little bark. And then I realize that no matter how strong the hurricane has been in my life, I'm still here. I'm still here. What the hell am I scared of? What is that fear trying to convince for all those decades that hasn't taught me about how easy I can feel defeated? Because I'm here still standing up. And when I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, I could look at it and think that it was quite easy. And I enjoy this ride. I enjoy the journey because it's teaching me so much. Because I can look back again of what happened to me and I can rebuild new meanings about, wait, what did I actually learn in these moments in my life? What did I learn about myself? Can I create a positive statement about myself that I've learned something essential for my growth? What is it? Because that's you conditioning this character. That's you creating a whole different program about how you perceived this situation. When you were in it, it sucked, but now you're rewriting the story. It is just from this perspective that you're creating your past. Can you change the emotional response inside of you? So you will change the emotional responses of similar situations that will awaken the same root of those wounds inside of you. But this time you have created space inside of you. So you don't have to act unconsciously upon that. Let the way you feel guide you, and make sure that you're not at the effect of the stories they tell. Let how you feel be your friend and your teacher. Yet don't let them run your life and tell you what you should be doing or not. Being present with how you feel doesn't mean to listen to what they say, because what they say is more likely to be a story that you have created a long time ago. That story might not benefit who you are now. So observe that story and calibrate to understand if that's something that you still want to live through. You are creating everything that you believe you are in this moment. No one else will ever do that for you. How big do you want to believe about yourself? Whatever small perception you have about that, write them down. Be truthful to yourself. If there is any blockage that stops you to believe that you can do this or that, or that you can create the life that you want, write the shit down. Write it down. So you can see, so you can express it with your hand. So you can detach yourself from the emotional and you can observe that thought being put on a piece of paper and looking at it without judgment. So you become aware of it and eventually you find acceptance. Okay, now what do I want to do about that? Because that's a limitation. I don't want to buy into it. Is there something that I can do now so I can transmute this energy from in to out so I can change my reality? Changing your reality doesn't only operate within how you think about yourself. That's the first step, and that's massively important. But from how you think translates to how you speak and translates to how you act and live your life. Can I change the way I live my life now? So I know that my thinking, my feelings, and the way I will speak will naturally align with that. What it is that I want to change in my life right now. How do I live my day? What do I do during my day? And what is it that I don't want to be doing in my day? Bring awareness to everything that you think of, everything that you speak, your speech, the vocabulary and the words that you're using, the type of stories that you're sharing to people, and observe very attentively about everything that you do during the day. Because all of that is defining you and who you are today and tomorrow and the next days. So if you're not content with something in your life now, it's because there are things that you're doing that you actually don't really want to be doing right now. Before bringing things that you want to be doing, make a cleanse. What am I watching on social media? How am I spending my mornings? How am I spending my evening? Do I respect some time for me to calm my mind and not be on my phone before going to bed? Do I sleep well? How do I eat? What do I drink? What are the people around me? Who are they? How do they think? Because how they think is a perfect reflection about how I think. Do they live the life that they want to live, or are they also in a place where they find themselves stuck? Cool, because I'm creating my whole environment right here. So if I look at my environment and how I live in it, I will find all the answers there. Here. Be curious. interested, and judgmental-less. Notice the judgments you have about yourself, and notice the one that you project onto others. It's one of the same. Nice to see your face. Do you have any question? Yes, and R.
Hi, Thomas. It's me, Nasia. Actually, I just had one small question. I'm not going to be too long and explaining. You were saying about this emotional when we are observing about emotions. And, you know, during the day or during the time, we always get those triggers that are sometimes a bit challenging to deal with. But do you have any concrete, if you have any concrete tips on what to do when you just get those triggers? It can be somebody saying really bad things to you, and we know that this person is triggering you. And I know that it's like you have to heal your wounds, but it takes it takes time. And just as you said before, that it's most difficult when you are in that situation. So what is the first thing to do when you are in that situation? Like somebody just said something that triggered you a lot, and you're not really conscious. So what's the first thing?
Is the question, what can I do when I sense this arousal of an emotion because there is something triggering, something that has been said, and I sense this reaction inside of me? What can I do in this moment?
Yeah.
Stay silent. I would say that's the first thing to do. Stay silent regardless what the person might think about your silence. Staying silent will allow you not to start the trigger of the speech and the conditioning of your language from within that program. So by stopping yourself to justify yourself or to reply or to say anything about the situation to the other person, you're actually cutting through and doing something that your program hasn't designed you to do. Now, if one of your program was designed to actually stay silent and retrieve yourself and not speaking your truth, then you might be doing the opposite. The idea is to do something that the program does not, by its base and from the moment that it has been created inside of you, does not allow you to do consciously. So by bringing awareness to that in this moment, to recognize, okay, what is the option that I've never tried here that I want to try so I can experience myself differently, so I can change the narrative of this program. And to remember that what I feel in this moment has nothing to do with the other person, and to deeply remember that they are here to be the perfect representation of what my unconscious mind is wanting me to resolve right now. So how can I take this as an opportunity to be with that, to be with myself? And if I can't hold myself, if I can't hold the space for me, because I'm not in a place where I can actually regulate myself, then there is probably a boundary that I need to put in order for me to step away and to save my own energy. So if I'm not in a space where I can acknowledge the volcano inside of me, and also take care of holding space for someone who might have his or her program being triggered, because hurt people hurt people. So if I feel hurt because someone said something, it's more likely that this was from a place of non-truth within them. Can I hold that space for them and myself? If the answer is no, I must step away and retrieve myself. Listen, this is how I feel right now, and I just feel like I can't have this conversation right now. And I'd like to speak from a place of honesty, authenticity, and acceptance and love and compassion. And right now I can't. So I need my space. If the person does not understand that, then I walk away. It's never about them. It's about how I feel inside when I see their reaction. Can I still prioritize myself, regardless their projection about what they might say? Oh, but you're leaving now, whatever it is that might trigger more programs to actually for me to talk from that place. It's me and my own energy right now. This is priority number one. If I prioritize my own energy, I'm making a gift to this person, whether or not they're aware of it or not. But I must remember that the response and the quality of the conversation that I want to have with them is my own and unique responsibility. It has nothing to do with them. Because if I don't take full 100% responsibility, I allow them then to control the way I feel, to control the way I can change. Because I'm expecting them then to do something about it. But if I expect people to do something about how I feel, I'm also again in my own illusion. And I'm waiting for something external to fix something that's happening within me. There's no such a thing. I'm the one taking full responsibility upon everything that I experience. So I must know about my boundaries. And if you look at boundaries being like the limitation of your expression to a certain degree, yes. And that must be spoken of. Because if I'm not the one speaking my words to protect my energy in that regard, I'm the one letting myself down. So what phrase, when I know this area, what phrase with respect and with love and with compassion can I express? So the person knows exactly that this is me taking my own time now. With full respect, I cannot be having this conversation with you right now. And I will come back to you as soon as I can. That's a very great boundary. Communication is a quality that shows up when you know you've done a good job at understanding your energy and knowing how to speak at a place where you're still in harmony with what's within you. Did that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
Actually, it's good because you reminding. You have already repeated this earlier, but it's good to be reminded, like where to start and how to navigate your thoughts and all that.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it's good to repeat. If there is something that you were like, oh, you mentioned that earlier, can you bring more? Can you explain that again? Because I think I can grasp more and I can understand it more if you repeat it. Please ask. All right. Hey, Mina. You're on mute, dear. Yeah. Hi. So you're not on mute anymore, but you're the voice is not being
Is it better now?
Here we are. Yes.
Okay. Hello. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. So my question might be related to the previous speaker, and your answer is that when I get triggered, there's a fight and fight response that gets triggered in me, and my reaction is to fight. So actually, I would do anything to run away from that feeling to the other person, because the other person is triggering me, and my whole reality becomes distorted. So the answer that you're giving us right now, it takes a lot of self-control, because I think my whole environment will tell me that, Mina, don't do it. Sit tight, go through the emotion, don't go, but I still do it. And that ruins the whole connection with that person, because yeah, not everybody can handle such an emotion. Yeah. So do you have any tips where in that moment, because it can take a long time for me, it really can take 2 months before I recover. And my second question is, when I do recover, I'm like, I can take on the whole world. My connection with that person is totally fucked. I can take on the whole world, and I want to do something with these qualities I have, with this trauma or fear that I have. But in 1 million possibilities that I could do, because I really believe that I could do anything. How can I make the right choice? Yeah.
Nice. You said you believe you can do anything, right?
Yeah, I can. I believe I can. Yeah, I can move mountains if I wanted to. But what is the right choice, and how can I make the choice between my empathetic side, the trauma that I have? How can I help other people going through what I am going through? I think that's everybody's unique. I am unique as well. So I think I have ingredients in myself which I can put to use to help others. I think that's my purpose or my calling, but it can be in any shape or form. So how do I make the right choice to do that? Maybe it's a stupid question, I don't know, because you will tell me that whatever you do is the right choice, but yeah, it's a bit hard.
I don't know when people answer their own questions. So you mentioned that you believe you can do anything. You believe that you can create a response inside of you instead of reacting from that place of fire.
Yeah, it's really, but it's fire and fear at the same time. So my whole reality will distort because of these emotions. It's a deep fear of loss, of abandonment. Yeah, even I'm talking to you, I'm getting all emotional. It's so deep, and I've encountered this in the last 2.5 years. I've encountered this for 4 or 5 times, and each time I encounter a person which triggers me, and then the relationship stops. So it takes a whole lot of time and strength for me to, go to the up, shine my light, and work on myself. So yeah, if it would be possible for me to control it, like in the moment, to realize this, okay, this is fear, and I need to lock the doors, do not fight, do not come out for 2 months till it's over. Because yeah, the fear of abandonment, it's so deep that yeah, you know, if your arm would, if somebody would cut off your arm, then no way you would allow somebody to do that. So it's very strong, and it's very difficult to have awareness in that moment and tell yourself that this is only my reality, my fear. So I don't know how to, not to avoid it, but to handle it. Yeah.
I'm going to guide you with something just now, but just before, I'm going to say something that I hear a lot from a lot of people, and just a matter of perspective, and that is being observable from the speech that we use and the position in which we use the words to say things. You mentioned a couple of times that this person triggers me, and I know what you mean about that. When we recognize that we say that this person triggers me, you might want to take a pause. When I notice that I say that this person makes me feel like this, I might want to take a pause here again. Because that speech implies that the source of the way I feel is coming from this person. To remember that instead of me saying that this person is actually triggering me, it's more about I'm feeling like that, and there is this that is being desired to get my attention within me. And it's thanks to this situation right now, even though it's hard and difficult as fuck, it's thanks to this person that I can actually tap into that now, because it's dormant if I'm not in this situation with this person. And this is a true insight of what that opportunity really means, is because it is an opportunity for me to see myself from an angle that I wasn't able and incapacity to actually deal with that earlier in my life. Do you mind if I guide you just to feel that fear?
Please do. Yeah.
Yes. Do you remember a moment, a very specific moment that happened when a situation like that happened with this person, and you felt in that place where you did not have, or you thought you did not have control towards how you could behave, and you reacted from that position, from that place?
Yeah, I disconnect. My body and my brain, they disconnect. So there's no connection in thinking and taking the action, because I take the action right away. Yeah.
And when you think of that, do you have a specific memory? If you close your eyes, do you see that moment where it happened, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or the last time you experienced that? Let me know when you have that memory.
I do.
Is there a feeling attached with that memory?
Yeah. The feeling is loss. It's loss. Yeah. The deep fear of losing something or somebody. Even though I watched your video with Natalie on what is love. So even though it's one day, one night, one month, it's I cannot. I really sometimes I think it's abnormal, this kind of emotion. But yeah. And a lot of people get scared of that, and you're telling us that You cannot ask someone to give you something to make you feel better. But in that moment, just only a hug or a good word, or somebody who stays and just stays, would be really helpful. But then I'm asking somebody else to do something for me. And these are all my emotions, right? So I should handle them. But yeah, it's fucked. It's fucked. Sorry. Yeah.
Why are you sorry?
Yeah. I don't know.
Thanks for allowing yourself to connect with that in front of everyone.
Yeah, I'm seeing other people too. Angela is also, I told her in the chat that I really feel connected, because it is normal to show emotions, of course, and we all have them. But I find it really hard to connect to others. Yeah, on this level. Show it, but I'm not shy, so I won't shy away from them.
I know. Can we just connect again with that moment and with that sensation inside of you? Can you recall this memory that you tapped into earlier?
Yeah.
Let me know when you have it.
Yeah, I have it.
Do you have that sensation of loss again?
Yeah.
Can you tell me where you have it and when you sense it, where you sense it in the body?
I don't know if I can feel it in my body. I think it's mainly in my head.
And when you think of it, when you use your head to think of that,
Yeah.
can you close your eyes and can you bring that vivid moment so you can think of that?
Yeah.
Now, as you keep on thinking of it, is there any sensation that is arising inside of the body, inside of your body, anywhere?
I think it's in my upper body. Yeah.
Is it big? Is it small? What is the size of it?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It's like a dragon fire. Yeah.
Stay connected with that. I'd like you to completely connect with that sensation that you have in your chest. And to drill your full attention towards this specific sensation. Let go of the story and just dive straight into that sensation in your chest. Merge with it. Swim in it. And keep on focusing into that sensation, diving deeper into it. As you keep on connecting with that, can you tell me what you notice?
Yeah, it's a fight. It's an inside fight. That's what I feel. Yeah.
And with that fight that's present inside of you, is that something else?
Movement.
Mm.
It's not it's an uneasy feeling. Yeah.
Mm. if there is anything that this movement wants you to move, just allow yourself to invite any movement that would translate from that. Do you notice a certain peace since you have been connecting with that?
Yeah. That movement, it brings more air.
Hmm. Hmm. What does air represent to you?
Freedom. Yeah, a strange, strange words in this setting, but yeah.
Hmm. So as you keep on connecting with that fight, I'd like you to notice that there is this air also. And to utilize this very moment as an anchor for you to remember that every time you're going to have these fights that arises within you, it cannot exist within the air that's around. And this freedom is supporting this fight to be. And you can see that they can coexist. And maybe the first thing that you will notice is that fight, because that's what has taken so much space inside of you. But behind the fight lays a wonderful stillness and freedom that you also have in this very moment inside of you. What do you notice?
No more peace. More calm. I can let go.
You want to let go of it now?
Holding on is safer though, you know.
Can you say that again?
I said holding on is safer. It feels more safe holding on. Because I don't know what I'm letting go.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, you might know a bit more when you notice that every time that this sensation might be arising again, to find that space where you can find that air inside of you, and trigger that thought for you to remember that when you sense that, to bring attention towards it, and to even create your own boundaries and being like, well, I can choose now not to react anymore, but just maybe to take some space so I can find that peace and that freedom inside of me. Because then if I can connect in it for a minute, the way I will communicate after that would be entirely different. And then all of a sudden I completely changed my previous behavior. And I know that because I've experienced it in that moment. So it's a whole new program that installed. And now I know that when I get this sensation that is being triggered inside of me, I know that I have this option. Oh, wait, there is that air behind that fight. Let's see what it has to tell me. And eventually you will find more that you will have more clarity about that fight. And when you will consciously know about what exactly that represents to you, that's going to bring even more space for air.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yeah, let us know. Let us know when you come back. Feel free to share that about the evolution of that new perception.
I will definitely do that. Yeah, I'm working hard, so I will. Yeah.
Work hard and rest hard.
Yeah. Thanks again.
A pleasure. Yes, Judith.
Hi, thank you, Mina, as well, for being so vulnerable.
Oh, thank you.
What I was wondering is that for me, in the situations where something is triggered inside me, is it's not always clear what I feel, and sometimes it even comes a few days after that I'm going like, oh, but this is what was happening, and my how do you say that? My response is usually shut down. So I don't speak because also I don't know what is happening. And a lot of the times the reaction is kind of like a physical, visceral sensation. And which in my case mostly comes out as crying. And it's a bit confusing then only to know like 3 days later what actually happened. And my question about that is more like, how can I like bring these points of knowing what is happening and what is happening like closer together?
Such a good point. By keep on doing it over and over and over again. It's a training. At first, it can take years to realize something that has been awakened and that we haven't dealt with. And then it drops down into months and then weeks and then days. And then sometimes according to the intensity of it, it can take hours, and sometimes it can take a couple of breaths. What's important is to not hold judgment upon how long does it take, and to accept that, to be like, all right, that's a pattern for now. It takes me that time. Okay. And I should be fine with it. Because the more I acknowledge that and I allow myself to be fine with how long it took, the shorter actually is going to come. So I don't want this to be an aim, because then I might keep on focusing on that and miss out the little sparkly lessons that I will not be able to see in the moment. And instead just being with that discomfort that I don't exactly know about what it is yet, and I don't understand about the thinking that's stopping me to elevate this perspective. What's helpful though is to have a routine to keep on nurturing mindfully this presence. So to have a routine where, yeah, meditation is very helpful. Eating well is definitely very helpful. Not eating during long period of times is also very helpful. And that's actually something that I personally explore more and more now with food. We have conditioned ourselves so much to eat, not realizing that this is not hunger at all. And we think it's hunger, but what's actually happening is that it's a discomfort of the emotional that's arising that we have put very much down, because we do not have to eat every day, but we've conditioned ourselves to eat 3 times a day. And the moment that we feel this discomfort, we associate it with hunger. So you don't have to fast 7 days to get to that place, not at all, but to notice and to be aware of the way we decide to put food in our body and the place where it's coming from. Because there is a lot that we can uncover by changing that also, and by playing with not just the diet, but the time in which I'm eating during the day. Because all of a sudden, when I'm not going to be eating for a long period of time, so much will be able to then come out. And if I'm being mindful with that, I can uncover a lot. And I can accelerate so much of the process of me shortening that time of creating responses in my life. So that, yeah, the practice, eating well, bringing more awareness to the 3 different areas that I was mentioning, bringing more awareness to how I think, bringing more awareness to how I speak, and to the actions of my days, that will bring a wider range of self-awareness. And that will allow you then to become more present in the moment and to be more focused with smaller things at a time, and to bring back the different avenues in our thinking towards one specific thing at a time. It elevates the level of concentration that we can provide on a daily basis. And concentration is the ability for me to focus my conscious mind towards one thing at a time. Can I sequentially do things and be fully present with one thing at a time? Because the more I can do one task and be fully with it, and notice my thinking that takes me away somewhere else, and be fully with what I do, and I'm fully with what I do next. It's the same process that happens when I'm in conversation with someone and there is something that is a volcano inside of me. Then I can be very much more aware of the new contrast inside of me and the little shifts. So I might not even know exactly where it's coming from, but I sense the shift, so I can be with it, even though I'm holding space and in the conversation. But I bring into that, and then it goes away. But yeah, to come back on what you were saying, I would say, yeah, acceptance of that length and the desire, and noticing the expectation of like, I want it to be so short. Being like, okay, yeah, I do want that, but I also don't want to hold any expectation about that. It's coming. It's definitely coming. And then all the things that I just mentioned can help. Definitely.
It doesn't happen like with every trigger. It happens like probably with certain ones that I haven't really identified at that time. Like I've been through a dark night of the soul like 3 years ago. I've been working really hard on myself, and I've changed a lot, and I see certain triggers better, and that way I can allow myself to respond differently. But there's the certain ones that are actually kind of feel like they're stuck in my body instead of like the story I have around something. So I find it hard that maybe that has improved as well, but I can't see it as well yet as I can actually see the others that happen in the moment where I respond differently. So maybe you're right, and I need to have patience.
Also, there's a beautiful connection between the sensation that we feel inside and our thinking. And if I'm not conscious about the thinking yet, and I know that if I would consciously know about what's going on, I would be able then to release it quicker. Communicating with ourselves is so beautiful and it's so efficient. When I bring this full intention of, I'm going to be talking to this part inside of me that's asking for attention right now. I can talk to myself in front of the mirror as I'm gazing at myself, because the way you see reflection is exactly the way you live your life in that moment. So if I'm bringing in front of the mirror, I'm looking here because this is my mirror. If I'm looking at myself and I'm coming with who I am now today, the amount of presence that I can give to myself is going to be determining the factor of how much I'm actually looking at what's going on in my life and how much I'm avoiding. And I can be very much in this deep connection with myself, because if I'm not fully with what I see in the reflection, I'm actually looking at the thoughts, and it's just another screen. So instead of looking at the screen that is available for me in the three-dimensional world, I'm looking at the screen inside of me. So if I bring awareness to that, I will notice that the type of thinking that actually come up and stop me to be present with my reflection is exactly what needs to find attention, what is asking me to be mindful of. And I can ask that, and I can ask myself in front of me, okay, what's up? And to drop any judgment about, but who is speaking, or just drop that, just let go of it all, and just enter a conversation, a true conversation with yourself. Regardless about how crazy that sounds, regardless about anything that wants to just tell you that, whatever. And trust that everything that will be said is exactly what you need. And if silence is being said, there is a lot of teaching within the silence. If there is something, an emotion inside of you, you can just close your eyes and also ask out loud or inside of you, like, what does that mean? What does this emotion mean to me? And then allow any answer that wants to come up. And to enter this communication with different parts of you, allowing different characters that actually find struggle. That's why it's so embedded in our unconscious mind, is because we have no idea about what parts of us are being involved here. But those characters are also characters that are playing this real life, so they can speak, because I can speak in those different expressions. So if I allow myself that I can actually speak with my different characters inside of me, I will find resolution, and I will find the blockage that was there. And it's just a matter of me bringing this intention. What kind of questions can I ask myself now to find out? And just starts with, hey, how are you? How are you? Like, what's going on? And then you will just like have this beautiful therapy for that moment. So
Funny thing is, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The funny thing is, when you said like about looking in the mirror and asking yourself, there was a feeling inside me, like visceral, and I asked myself, like, okay, but I thought it was grief, but what is it? And it said fear, and it dissipated. So I was like, oh, okay, so even like right now, that feeling, it came up, and I was just like, okay, instead of grief, it being fear, and it just felt recognized or something, maybe.
That's it.
So yeah, powerful.
I think that the last sentence that you just mentioned is extremely powerful. This part of me felt recognized. Recognition is the acknowledgement of what is, and the acceptance of it. When I recognize something, I look at it with acceptance. And that is all what those parts want. And it's because different parts of us don't want to look at this part, that this part feels very lonely. And that sounds very foreign, but what it does psychologically is that there is just a hole. There is just like a blockage, and I just don't know. And there is this thing that is stopping me to be who I want to be. But it's because there are different parts of me that don't want to accept that. I don't want to accept that there is something that I don't know about myself. I don't want to accept that there is something that I feel shameful about. So it's just about, okay, everything that I feel, basically there's just a fear around me that doesn't really want me to investigate. Fuck that. What's up? Just being like, oh. And then eventually just finding that I can release such a massive weight that I'm carrying for years, just because I took the time to actually ask and investigate and check on what that part was needing from me. And then integration can just appear like that. And then this symptom in my life never appears anymore. It will appear in different angles, because the root always like have different avenues. But that particular thing I don't experience it anymore. And I recognize the progress because I'm like, wow, I used to feel like that, but I don't. I used to answer that, but this is gone now. And now I feel much more loving because I recognize that, wow, the whole time it was just people expressing themselves, and it was just truly me not being able to receive those informations without taking it personally, without feeling that I have to fight to justify something or whatever it is. And instead it's like, wow, now this representation allows me to just see the truer nature of our programs. And I see people's programs now and I'm like, wow, I used to behave like that. And that is a great gift to see that, because from that place, we can really find this humility that reminds us that we come a long way and we have things to share with people. How can I best convey this information so people can have that little seed planted, if it is something that is meant for them? And to remember that it's not about saying the right thing for people. It's more about accepting that we are all in our own journeys. Especially when I'm in relation with people, with my family, with my friends, letting go of the idea that you can change them and explain them what's happening is the best thing that you can do for yourself and for them. The best thing. The best. Don't even try to justify or to explain your knowledge to them, because there is so much identification about you in them and them in you. And if they can't forgive themselves, it's impossible for them to receive your knowledge and your wisdom, because that also will be distorted anyway, because you won't have this clear channel. You sense it. You sense it when you speak from true wisdom and when you know it's directly impacting people, or when you're trying with the mind to explain something and you know that they don't get it. Or it's because it's not the right place for you to speak now. Because now you're trying to force the passage of that wisdom, but it's not wisdom anymore. It's you, it's the identification trying to speak. It's your ego trying to be someone. Letting go of that is the best thing you can do for yourself and for others.
I can actually feel the difference when I try doing something like that, from wanting them to understand and from a place where you're just speaking without worrying about any outcome and being able to do it without emotional, just in a neutral, loving kind of way, instead of going like, but I think you la la la, instead of you go like, but I think this and this and this. So it's completely different energy when you come from a place where you think you can teach someone about something, or where you can just share information.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that.
It's important to remember that we're not the teachers. And it's by being the teaching itself that the lessons have been passed down. And the teaching doesn't say much. It just shows. So teaching is the embodiment of the message it conveys. If I'm trying to be the teacher, I think that I'm the one making that change. If I stress because I'm about to have a workshop and I'm worried about if I'm going to create a meaningful impact that I want for those people, I'm thinking that I'm the one doing it. I'm creating interferences. It's a lot of pressure that does not lead for a great experience as the individual, and it's a great reminder to always come back to that place of, okay, in a sense, I can prepare myself to feel to a level of confidence, but I must let go of anything that I think I know. And it's just my presence and me being that is actually creating the change, creating the space and the frame for the change to operate. Yeah, good insight.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks, Judith. Hey, Gaëline. What's up?
Hi. So let's see. I grew up in like a really traumatic and chaotic environment. And it wasn't until just recently, like the last year or two, that I've actually recognized that and recognized how unsafe and uncomfortable I feel in my body, and basically like all environments that are not like relatively speaking unsafe, with people who are relatively speaking not unsafe. And it's like deep, like in my bones, like it's, and I can't, it's almost like so deep that it's like unconscious, but I've become more and more conscious of it. But it causes a lot of problems in my life, like this inability to like show up like without shrinking, and without, like, I struggle with the ability to access what I'm trying to express. I'll like go blank, right? Like I'll like forget what I like lose touch with my body. I lose touch with my mind when I'm put on the spot. And it just, it causes like other problems, like this, like striving to people please, or to placate or fawn people, or and like this like kind of disgusting obsessive perfectionism, right? Like it's just like a different form of pleasing. And also, like I don't know if this is like too much to share, but I've like just recently, or not recently, maybe in the last like 5 years, become more and more aware of how that level of trauma and like chaos and like unsafety has caused a lot of damage in my body. Like I hadn't had a menstrual cycle for 17 years, and then all of a sudden, when a big shift happened, I had a menstrual cycle, like out of nowhere. And it was at a time that it was like so synchronistic and not coincidental. Like I knew, because I had like shifted, like I had become a different version of myself. And then all of a sudden that happened. And then about 2 years later, it happened again, like at one of those like elemental times. And so I'm just wondering, like, what you would say about, these aren't just like everyday thoughts where everything you're talking about I experience, but like this is just like a different level, and I'm not quite sure how to work with it in a way that's, because it's intense. Like I could name it in front of people, but it might make people feel really uncomfortable, right? Like, and I can go there, but not a lot of people can meet me there. And so how can I be in the world and heal this in relationship? Or can I heal it with myself? And what does that look like? I'm not quite sure. It's like unknown. It feels very unknown territory, but I know it's like it's possible. I'm just not quite sure what to do, how to go about it. Because like all these unconscious habits happen. Like I'll start.
I invite you can you just close your eyes right here? That's right. We're gonna take two more breaths like that. Inhaling through the nose, all the way up. Exhaling, and just as you exhale, just relaxing the body a bit. One more time. Inhaling. And exhaling all the way down.
Thank you. Sorry.
Tell me how you feel now. In
I
regard
feel
to
better.
what
Like I feel better saying what I like needed to say, and like if you notice, like I had to close my eyes there for a minute to like stay with myself as I was talking. But and that breath that just happened really just kind of like whoosh, like this energy, this like pent energy just left.
Yeah. Every time that it happens like that, notice that this intensity is basically the nervous system just not being able to handle that energy that arises. Again, regardless of the stories and everything, and I know that this can be meaningful for an individual, but in order to rethink and to change the perception around that, it's about coming back to calmness. Because it's when I'm not in calmness that I keep on constructing meanings about that story, and I'm reinforcing the negativity from it. And I keep on embedding this identification of me and my own traumas, and I create more and more stories and I pack them. So the next time that it pops up, it's even more heavy than before. So it's a matter of, okay, I want to think of that when I'm not in that place of reaction. So when I notice that I think of it and I'm disempowering myself, okay, let's regulate myself. I'm going to take a few deep breaths and I'm going to focus on the body, and I'm going to bring myself back to the body, because it's when I'm tangled in my thoughts that I'm separating to the present moment. So I'm just going to take a few deep breath and come back here. And then you sense the shift of energy straight away. And then from that place, you can rethink about that. And then the whole narrative that happened a minute ago is going to be entirely different now, because the informations passing through the body are completely different. And in the moment that I'm literally creating the DNA inside of me, the code of who I am and how I express myself is according to this very moment with how I feel and how I think. So the more I think negatively and the more I feel negatively, I keep on anchoring myself into this state. So it's about just sensing when that appears and being like, I'm going to take a few deep breaths and coming back here. Did you have a question that you want me to answer? Can you ask again your question, if it's still relevant to you?
So it's like a lot of the problems I think are arising. It's like it's not by thought. It's like it's deeper than that. It's like my body just doesn't feel safe. Like, so my respiration rate goes up, my heart rate goes up, my hands shake, my voice, my throat constricts and my voice cracks. And I think that's why, I know that's why all of those processes within my body have shut down, and like why pain and like muscle contraction, it will flare up and get pretty severe. Like, so it's like it's not my thoughts, it's like it's just my body. It's my body is doing things I don't feel I have control over. And so when I'm in an environment it starts to do all of these things that I can't just I guess, maybe just being aware of it, taking a few deep breaths and over time,
And can you believe just for a minute here that you can actually change that and find resolution within the body?
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
further on that you can't is stopping you to find out a way for it to be possible.
Yeah.
The way it's so ingrained into our bodies is because we have made, in a specific moment in our life, a decision in the moment when we felt that emotion according to that specific moment in our life. And we've decided through the thought that this wasn't a good idea for us to express that because the environment in which we were was making us feel that it wasn't the right thing to do. So I've decided that I was not going to feel that anymore. So it's so deep. That alone, as you were just mentioning, is about actually going with the limitations that arise in the body instead of resisting to it. So if you sense muscles contractions that are severe, and if you sense other things, instead of being afraid from it, go with it. It goes entirely the other direction of what you used to think about, but it's like, this is a signal for you to actually bring your full attention and awareness towards it. So if I sense my heart that's racing like crazy, it's more likely that I'm going to create a lot of stories and scenarios about me dying or whatever it's going to be. But I'm not actually going to be focusing on the heart rate because I'm going to be scared of it. That fear is to penetrate. When you sense that appearing inside of you, just plunge into that which you recognize and let that be the object of your attention. Because you will find stillness in the same way that we did with Nina. It's by diving into that which does not feel comfortable that you will find this stillness and that peace. And once you have found that peace in that chaos, there is nothing that scares you anymore. Because you're like, wow, okay, I understand now what it means. Is I want to run away from that, whatever it is, a body pain, whatever it is, a sensation, whatever it is, a thought or a scenario, I will find resolution within it by completely merging with that. And the more I do it, the more I condition myself that it's within the darkness that I will turn that into light. So how can I just know every time that this is the way? Is because the fear is going to tell you to go somewhere else. Don't listen to that. Dive into that sensation. Be connected with yourself, come back to the body, and tackle directly. I wouldn't say tackle because it's not a nice word to use as a word, but destroy. No, just kidding. Go with that which comes with that intention of like, okay, this is the path. This is literally the signal for me to actually jump in here. In the same way that we all know that follow the fear, this is where you're going to find great expansion. That's the same thing. Follow the pain and you will find release in it.
Thank you. Yeah.
A pleasure. A pleasure. Ah, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Beautiful. All right. So if there is no other
We could
question,
probably talk all night here, I think.
we have had meetings that lasted for 4 hours, even
Thank you
more.
for your patience. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for yours. I enjoy it. Sometimes I get a bit tired and I'm like, all right, this is bedtime. But then I get asked a very nice question and then I forget about my tiredness. So no, thank you guys for staying and for asking those nice and delicious questions and for being brave to share actually how you feel and to transform that straight away. You've experienced it now because here's the space is designed for you to do so. But just know that you can create that space for you also in the outside world. And it's like, okay, I can support myself. I can love myself regardless. If the person in front of me is unable to hold that space, I'm holding my space. I have my back. Fuck yeah. You fucking rock. Thank you, Rebecca. I haven't checked any of your messages there because I don't take the time to read them. Nice. I'm happy. Cool. All right, guys. So thank you so much for coming and joining. Tomorrow is going to be the release of that masterclass on YouTube. We're going to release the next link for our next masterclass as usual. And I wish you a wonderful weekend and wonderful days.